Също така той е главен сътрудник в Института за руски език Александър Сергеевич Пушкин и основател на Института за съвременни лингвистични изследвания към Държавния университет за хуманитарни изследвания в Русия, където, доколкото ми е известно, е директор на този институт. Той се занимава с разнообразни научни изследвания, като започнем от морфология синтаксис и завършим до типология на германските и на славянските езици. С други думи, има разнообразни лингвистични интереси, множество публикации, които са оказали влияние на руското езикознание, на българското езикознание, смея да твърдя и на световното езикознание. Той е също така водещ учен в нашия проект, съвместен проект с Русия, който се нарича Онтология на ситуациите за състояние, лингвистично моделиране, съпоставително изследване на български и руски език. В проекта участват 16 изследователи от България, общо 10, и 6 от Русия, като от България научните изследвания се провеждат в Института за български език и в Софийския университет Свети Климент Охридски. В резултат от научните изследвания по този проект бяха направени редица публикации, смея да твърдя, те са интересни, задълбочени. И също така искам да споделя нещо, че макар, че всеки един от нас в някаква степен, кой повече, кой по-малко, се беше занимавал с проблемите на описанието на предикатите и предикатно-аргументната структура. Всъщност именно този проект ни даде възможност да разберем колко е дълбоко това познание, освен това колко е красиво. И колкото повече навлизаме в изследванията на предикатите за състояние, толкова повече разбираме, че това е една сложна материя, че ние няма да можем да изчерпим в рамките на 2 години, в които е проекта, а със сигурност ще трябва да продължим нашето сътрудничество и след края на този проект. Сега давам ви думата, професор Цимерлинг, заповядайте, с огромен интерес очакваме вашето представяне.
The talk today is about predicate ontologies, and it has an introductory general part, then a description of one predicative construction shared by modern Russian and Bulgarian, and finally I analyze a special predicative construction with a modal existential meaning. It is displayed only in modern Russian, but the roots are common Slavic, as I will argue in the last section of my talk. So the first part is about holistic predicate ontologies. Natural language ontologies distinguish between static and dynamic situations. Not all of them, but there is a long tradition going back to the seminal works of Donald Davidson. Dynamic situation consists of non-homogeneous phases and involve in transition from state P to state not P. Zeno Wendler, another name of the founder of predicate ontologies, lists 3 types of dynamic situations. So-called activities, like English verbs to run or to drive, so-called accomplishments, that is incremental or gradual predicates, like to build a house, and then achievements, that is predicates of an instantaneous transition, say to notice. And Wendler opposes them to a single class of states. His classification, unfortunately, doesn't capture the distinction between different types of static situations. What is crucial, that it's possible to postulate and follow a rather straightforward distinction of Kemian and Davidsonian states. There are many excellent works. For instance, recent surveys by Claudia Meinborn and other scholars, and these works are listed in the reference sections. Pre-theoretically, Kimian states are atemporal things, that is, results of measurements, assessments, or evaluations. For instance, these tomatoes weigh 3 kilos. This is just a result of measurement. We state that the weight of tomatoes was measured at some point, but we don't specify that point. Davidsonian states are spatio-temporal things, and they hold during a period of time. These tomatoes were already rotten when John saw them. So, truth conditions. If something is a Davidsonian state and holds in some locus during an interval starting from t0 to tn, P is true in this locus for every time point Ti belonging to the set starting from T0 to Tn, so that P consists of homogeneous phases, or to put it in different words, consists of a single phase. That is what I, following other scholars, call a homogeneity criterion. Dynamic predicates which imply or involve a transition from P to not P obviously do not fit the homogeneity criterion. But Kimian states, that is, atemporal things, and or one-place nominal predicates like these trees are big, Mary is intelligent, Mary is a teacher, do not fit the spatio-temporality criterion. So, in very plain words, Davidsonian states are equivalent to 2 requirements. So they fit 2 requirements, homogeneity and spatio-temporality. Some general comments, methodological comments about the links between semantics and morphosyntax. There are absolutely no principles, no universal principles predicting the morphosyntactic type of Kimian or Davidsonian states in specific world languages like Bulgarian, Russian, English, Chinese, and so on. They can be realized as verbs, predicative, adjectives, participles, noun, whatever you like. So a predicate like John is intelligent is a Kimian state from the viewpoint of semantics, And there is no requirement that Kimian states are verbal or non-verbal, though the best known examples are verbs like English to rule or German besitzen. Likewise, there is absolutely no requirement that Davidsonian states must be verbal or non-verbal. But in my data, in the data I'm going to discuss today, Davidsonian states, I will speak of non-verbal. So let's speculate a bit about the Kimian world. The Kimian world, that is some logical space consisting of filled by Kimian predicates. Such a world is based on the points of measurements. It's static and atemporal. The examples are listed on the slide. Trees or tomatoes are physical objects, and as physical objects, they certainly exist during a limited time. A person, say John, is mortal and will no longer be a teacher after the end of his service, etc. But if we describe the meaning of sentences like John is a teacher, then we must say that it's just static and atemporal. So this is true for some unspecified moment of measurement. The Davidsonian world is based on linear time. This is almost trivial, but this must be said explicitly. Since all Davidsonian states include a single phase where P is true, the irreversibility criterion elsewhere postulated as definitional for Davidsonian states is simply redundant. So there are very nice classifications like Nedyalkov and Yakhantov, where so-called simple and stable states are opposed to irreversible states. But these classifications actually describe different types of resultatives, or in Wendlerian terms, accomplishments, not the end states. So what kind of irreversible processes can be listed? For instance, to get mature or to get rotten. So indeed, if something gets rotten, and if someone or something gets mature, the initial state cannot be restored. But this dimension is only relevant for dynamic predicates, in this case, for accomplishments. So I just stated Davidsonian states are very simple. They are homogeneous and consist of a single phase, so the reversibility criterion is not that relevant for them. But what is relevant that Davidsonian states always denote causally independent spatio-temporal things. That is why questions like why is it sunny in Sofia today, or what's the reason for that Peter or Mary said today, do not make any sense for the description of these states in natural language ontologies. So to sum up, these states, Davidsonian states, are not derived by any preceding activities. They are just conceived as spontaneous and non-predictable, unlike such predicates as the window is open, the window is shut, which are conceived as causally dependent from some preceding processes or activities. That is pretty important. So let's turn to partial ontologies. The first section was about general language ontologies, and I will remind you of another line of research, which is focused on predicate constructions or selected word classes, presumably linked with a shared taxonomic meaning, say meaning of state or property. Lev Щерба suggested that spatio-temporal static predicates, he dubbed состояния in Russian, are expressed in modern Russian by a special word class. He just called it category of state, and the hypothesis behind it was that all words in that hypothetical word class have the same underlying taxonomic meaning of Scherbian or Davidsonian state. This insight is elaborated in Bulygina's and Seliverstova's classification. These authors indeed follow both Scherbe and Davidson by distinguishing spatio-temporal and non-spatio-temporal situations. Static situations. The latter, called свойства, are probably equivalent to Kimian states, since they are properties, names of properties, abstracted from any referential situations. And that's exactly what Kimian state is. The same distinction was later reintroduced by Greg Carlson in 1977 under the cover term stage-level predicate versus individual-level predicate. This Carlson's approach has been developed by Angelica Kretzer and other scholars. I will claim that Carlson's and Kretzer's SLP class is identical with Davidsonian and Scherbian states, but the difference is that just Carlson, Kretzer, and Lev Scherba, who lived a bit earlier, oriented towards partial language ontologies and aimed at finding diagnostic contexts for SLP predicates in specific world languages, while Davidson and other scholars aim at general, not partial, holistic language ontologies. So the classical examples are there are filemen available, SLP, but you can't just build an SLP predicate by using the word altruistic in the same context. So it's just diagnostic for a certain class of SLP predicates in modern English. The Carlsonian or Scherbian approach can also be used for interpreting selected constructions and the syntactic features responsible for their semantic specifics. So Slavic languages use productive sentence patterns with non-verbal or non-finite predicates with SLP semantics. That's just an empirical statement, and this is not a new idea of mine. So I'm going to dative predicative structures, and I just repeat that in modern Russian and Bulgarian, these constructions, or these constructions, since it's in fact one and the same construction with some variations, linked with copular sentence patterns. So the slot pred stands for indeclinable predicative. The copular slot is filled by copulars lacking agreement properties, and the semantic subject marked by with the dative by or with the dative case is animate. So it's just the sentence pattern and its characteristics. DPS predicatives, that is elements slicing such a construction, constitute a lexical class both in Russian and Bulgarian. And the proof comes from the fact that you can't put every predicative or adverbial into this syntactic frame and produce the well-formed sentence. So, in other words, the dative predicative construction is selective both in Russian and Bulgarian. There is also cross-linguistic variation, which has been measured by Yelena Ivanova and myself in Russian and Bulgarian. The main point is that in Bulgarian, the dative valency must be realized overtly and must be marked by a pronominal dative clitic, while this doesn't hold for Russian, language lacking pronominal clitics and the principle of obligatory pronominal marking of the experiencer. And the second point, that all DPS predicatives in Russian can be realized without a filled dative slot. What is crucial is not that there is a dative slot, a filled dative slot with a Davidsonian state in Russian, but that you cannot add a dative slot to a predicate which doesn't belong to the class licensing DPS structures. So the hypothesis is that for each predicative, you can find a context where this predicative signals the diagnostic meaning of internal state. What is internal state? Internal state is a subtype of states which is characterized by priority animate experiential argument. Russian and Bulgarian DPA constructions block elements incompatible with the taxonomic meaning, but cover a broad variety of situations. Therefore, one can describe these constructions in terms of language ontologies. This task was first solved for Russian in 2017, when an ontology consisting of 15 classes was proposed. Each class is linked with a thematic group of DPS predicatives. I'll skip this slide and just sum up that the ontology of the Russian DPS construction doesn't cover situations implying symptomatic activity of the animate dative argument and semantic control on its part. Therefore, we generally can't say "мне гневно" intended I'm angry, or "мне взволнованы" intended I'm excited in Russian, and such sentences are rated by the native speakers as unacceptable and have low frequency in language corpora. Bulgarian DPS construction is a bit less selective, and there are more classes, thematic classes. Here are the classes which must be added to the shared core of the construction, but I have no time to discuss them in detail. I'll just state that, that there are about 60 predicates which pattern with additional Bulgarian classes which do not have exact parallels in Russian. So model predicatives belong to the shared part of the DPS ontology, and this class is surely more prominent in Russian. It includes two highest frequency elements, nada, the meaning necessary, and нужно, the meaning is needed, and totals 44 items. That is almost 13% from the main list of test stimuli used in our experiment. In Bulgarian, the final figure is the corrected ratio is about 4%, which is significantly less than in Russian. But otherwise, there are 10 predicatives which seem to be used rather frequent, 10 DPS predicatives with the model meanings. And hybrid, finally, I'm going to the final section of my talk. It's about hybrid modal existentials. This part has a rather complicated syntactic analysis, but I will present it in a nutshell. So there are predicative neg words like негде, некого. Overtly, they consist of a general negation merged with a WH word. But as shown by Aprisyan and Yomdin, which follow early work by Paul Gart, they have a more complex argument structure with a silent existential operator. So the dative subject argument is almost always animate. So such items behave like DPS predicatives. And like words like нельзя, невозможно, they can be realized without a filled dative slot. But the same condition as I have said holds for all DPS predicatives in Russian. The finite position is either taken by copular forms of B or by other copulars like stat. From the viewpoint of surface syntax, Russian predicative neg words are just DPS predicatives. But their meaning is a very curious composition of the elliptic model operator possible with the general negation. That is not, P is not possible, or it's not possible that P. The formalism is partly shown on this slide. And we see that the proposition P is expressed by the infinitival complement. For instance, it's not possible that X has a place to sleep, or it's not possible that X has any time to read books. Scope. The negation has a wider scope than the elithic operator, which has a wider scope than the proposition or event P. And there is an extra shell between P and possible, the operator possible. What is negated is the existence of an event E, which has sub-event P expressed by a propositional complement. So the existential component of the meaning of Russian neg words is confirmed by their non-negative correlates, where we see an overt existential marker есть. Мне есть где спать, мне есть кого винить, and so on. If a sentence like «мне негде спать» is a natural language negation of the sentence «мне есть где спать», the positive variant has the structure shown on the slide. The negative variant has the structure illustrated by the provided formula. They can be found in my contribution to the conference volume. So the inbuilt modal component it's impossible that any individual X existed whom one could blame for the crisis, while a purely existential interpretation of the same sentence is there is no such X who is responsible for the crisis. I refer to sentences like «негде спать, некого винить в кризисе» as hybrid modal existentials. The main argument, the main syntactic argument is that hybrid modal existentials are very strange formations morphosyntactically, since neg words look like just ordinary modal predicatives, but actually they project a biclausal argument structure where the general negation and the existential operator are in the main clause, and the WH word, which is merged morphologically with the negation, is in the embedded clause. So I claim that WH words raised to the main clause merge with the negation and form a morphological unit. That's the formal analysis. So at the first glance, hybrid neg words like негде and некого just govern their infinitival complements, but as shown as argued by Gart, Yogdin, and Aprisyan, if one considers the syntactic relation of the infinitive to the WH word in Russian, the WH word must be recognized as the complement of the infinitive, not its head, since pronominal WH words like кого get a morphological case from the infinitive. This is shown on my slide by the mark, by the headedness parameter. So винить governs accusative case, therefore кого gets accusative case. Sorry. Ване некому некому читать лекцию, you see that there is a lower copy кому, which is just deleted after кому raises to the main clause. Васе некого винить в кризисе, just the same, but the WH word has accusative case. Well, all Russian predicatives lack case and agreement morphology. I just second Nikolai Pospelov's analysis and neglect forms in the instrumental case like нет ничего стыдного, which marginally exists in Russian. Argument WH words like кого, кому lose morphological case if they raise to non-argument positions. I'll skip this slide and show you the well-known correlates of neg words in Bulgarian. The first point is that Bulgarian just lacks hybrid existentials, and they do not merge with the general negation. Non-negative and negative existentials headed by ima and nyama, there is not, are built in the same way. And there is an analysis proposed by Penchev, who assumed that Bulgarian WH words indeed raise out of da clauses and can be fronted before the complementizer da, like in example 4. I guess this analysis on the right track, but there is a possible alternative. Probably it's worse, since we don't know whether da is a true enclitic. So Penchev's proposal is in fact parallel to Yomdin and Aprisyan's analysis, though they don't use the constituency grammar, the meta language of constituency grammar. I'm almost done, but so I skip the slide about pure modal predicatives. They are possible only in the dative case in modern Russian. And so a few words, concluding words about the roots of this strange construction and its relation to the dative predicative ontology. Indeed, sentences like негде спать are not genuine dative predicatives, but they are rather a special case of another dative construction, dative infinitive structures. Such structures were attested in by Old Slavic languages, including Old Slavonic, Old Bulgarian, and Old Russian. But Bulgarian lost the infinitive and consequently the dative infinitive construction, while Russian just hold it. So the DPS and these constructions partly overlap, since one and the same construction with an animate participant can be conceptualized both as an internal Davidsonian states and as external pressure leaving or depriving the subject of another possibilities. But modern Russian, with few exceptions discussed in the previous works, doesn't license embedded dative infinitive clauses. That was an option in the Old Slavic, and I will argue that in Old, I'll skip this slide, that in Old Slavic, just neg words were, the neg constructions were just embedded in dative infinitive constructions. First, hybrid construction with an animate subject, plus and minus animate subject. И рече лесть есть быть и ту Изяславу негде полки своими в горах. This example is from Kievan Chronicle, and its outstanding part devoted to Prince Iziaslav Mstislavich. So all three examples are from 1150. Негде быть и ту Изяславу. Here you can, of course, replace Iziaslav, that's his proper name, with a name like polk, army, or troop. So it's plus minus animacy. That is, it's not a genuine dative predicative construction. So in the same fragment of Kievan Chronicle, you see, you find an actual DPS construction. И сеями зимы и весны нельзя на конь к тебе в сесте. And I cannot lead cavalry to you this winter and spring. That's true dative predicative. And finally, you have a dative infinitive structure, a root structure. Уже ми талико доехать с гостями сугры и сляхи. If only I got the chance to escape with my allies, the Hungarians and the Poles. That's Izislav's words. Уже ми только доехать. So if only I had a chance, if only it is the situation makes it possible that I escape with my foreign warriors. That's it. So the conclusion is that I follow the distribution of three non-verbal constructions capable of expressing modality. Modern Bulgarian uses only one of them. Modern Russian uses dative, infinitive, and dative predicative structures, and Bulgarian lost the infinitive and dative infinitive structures and didn't develop the special constructions with hybrid model existentials. But nevertheless, Bulgarian parallels are important for the reconstruction of the biclausal syntax of Russian hybrids. That's it. Sorry for robbing you of time for discussion. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Professor Cimmerling. I would like to thank you once again for your very interesting talk. And for the audience, you can ask